Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ready, Set, Develop. My name is Ram, and on behalf of the App Gurus team, I want to thank you for joining us today. We know you're busy, so the fact that you're here means you probably have an app idea, or at least the curiosity to explore one. And that is exciting. This webinar is not about overwhelming you with coding jargon. It's about giving you the tools, clarity, and confidence to move forward with your idea. Over the next 25 minutes, we'll cover how to prepare before development even starts, validate that your idea solves a real life problem, plan for development and budgeting, and finally, how to think about the launch and growth. Whether you're a startup founder or a business owner or a product manager, you walk away with an action plan and hopefully a bit of inspiration too. The purpose of this webinar is also to learn from you, to understand what knowledge you're seeking. So please reach out to us if you have any questions and you want to learn more. So the team here today, myself, as I said, Ram, senior consultant. Christian is be joining us later in the presentation. He's a business consultant, and we have Gokul here, also assisting us through the technical side of things. And he's a senior consultant in AppGurus as well. That's the team. Why preparing before development is critical? So why is that a very important side of things? So let's start with the biggest mistake we see. People jump into app development headfirst, often hiring a developer, spending money, and racing to get a product built without ever stopping to plan. This is what we call the app idea trap. It's when there's no business plan or roadmap, no clear technical direction, no real user validation, and decisions are made on gut instinct only, rather than real data and real life cases. And the outcome? Misaligned expectations, wasted money, and frustration with when the app doesn't perform as hoped. Think of it as like building a house. You wouldn't hand a builder a hammer and say, start building. You have blueprints, approvals, a clear vision of what the house is going to look like and what it's made out of. Your app deserves the same level of preparation. And that's what we're going to do today to prepare you. Okay, so what is the market opportunity? What can you get out of building an app? So let's talk numbers. The mobile app industry is massive, with over $522 billion in 2024 and projected to grow to $781 billion by 2029. But here's the catch. Only 0.5% of consumer apps succeed. And the ones that do launch, 71% lose market of their user within 3 months. Why? Because most apps don't solve a real problem. They're solutions in search of a problem. So instead of thinking, I want to build an app, the better question here is, what problem am I solving? And who really cares about it? If you get that right, you're ready and already ahead of most people entering this market. Throughout this webinar, we'd love to use a case study from one of our clients called Instant Consult. He's one of my favorite examples, and it's a leading Australian telehealth app. Before Instant Consult, the pain point was clear. People hated waiting rooms. Parents couldn't always drag a sick kid to the doctor, and those with disabilities or transport issues struggle with access. Instead of rushing to code, the team validated the idea. They researched their users. They narrowed their focus to a clear MVP product that was a video consultants with GPs. And they iterated based on real user feedback. Today, they have over 100,000 downloads and a 4.8 star rating. More importantly, they've transformed the healthcare access in Australia. The lesson, real success comes from solving clear, everyday problems and validating that before you even build. So the roadmap, that is a very important tool here to have that vision. What are you going to build? So here at AppGurus, road mapping is recommended, and let's go through the stages. Clarify the problem, know exactly what pain points you're solving. Define your audience. Who are they? What do they need? And what frustrates them today? Validate the idea through surveys, competitor research, and even quick prototypes. Build an MVP, the leanest version of your app that delivers your customers value. Launch, get it into the hands of real users with a marketing strategy. And improve, gather feedback, iterate, and add features that matter quickly. This process keeps you focused, reduces wasted spend, and helps your app evolve with your audience. So now I'll hand over to Christian, who will continue with this webinar. Christian, we can't hear you.
Hello. Hi. Sorry. So we'll start with step one, clarify the problem. So every successful app starts here. Not with a feature list, not with code, but with crystal clear clarity on the problem that you're solving. Ask yourself three things. Number one, who is my customer? Number two, what pain are they facing? And number three, is that pain something they deal with daily or just occasionally? Here's the key. The best apps don't solve nice to have problems. They solve painful, unavoidable problems that users can't ignore. For example, think about Uber. The problem wasn't just getting a ride, it was taxis. They were unreliable, expensive, and hard to find. That was a daily operational pain that Uber solved in a way that people immediately fell in love with. They felt it in their lives. So, my challenge to you, if your app disappeared tomorrow, would anyone notice? Because if the answer is no, you need to dig a little deeper before moving forward. And that's where you have to clarify the problem. Now, let's make this real. Instant Consult, one of our clients that Rum has pointed out before, they tackled a very clear pain point. Their customers, which included parents with sick kids who couldn't get to the doctor's office, it was people with disabilities who struggled with transport, and busy professionals who didn't have hours to sit in waiting rooms. Their pain points were obvious: time, logistics, convenience. These weren't occasional frustrations, they were daily realities. And that's why the solution resonated. This is the difference between building an app people think is cool versus an app people depend on. And Instant Consult's success came from solving that latter. Now let's define the audience. Once you know the problem, the next step is to define exactly who you're building for. A common mistake is saying, oh, my app is for everyone. If it's for everyone, it's for no one. With Instant Consult, they zoomed in. 25 to 45-year-old professionals, married with kids, short on time, even living in cities. Do they have private health insurance? That level of detail helped shape everything: the user experience, the marketing, even the tone of the app. So think about your own audience. Who are they? What does their day look like? What apps do they already use? The more specific you are, the more successful your app will be. Now, talking about success, let's define it. For founders, success is just downloads. But 1,000 downloads with 0 active users, that's not success. You need to set metrics that actually align with your business model. For some, they're active users, and for others, it's revenue or even time saved. It might even be something like a social impact. So let's look at a real-world example. A project that AppGurus has worked on, the founder wasn't aiming for massive downloads up front. Their metric was actually reducing time wasted on manual paperwork, repetitive paperwork that they did time and time again. And when we tracked that, we could prove ROI, which was far more meaningful than just the average daily installs. So define your success early. That way, You'll know if your app is working, and investors will know too. Now, the next step that too many founders skip is probably why apps fail, and that's the validation. So, validate with research. It's about proving the problem is real and that people care enough to pay for the solution. Do surveys, run interviews, ask questions in Facebook groups, look at Reddit thread. You'll be shocked at how many people share about what frustrates them. Build a SWOT analysis. Know your app's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Map out a business model canvas, which is a one-page strategic tool that visually maps out how a business creates, delivers, and captures value by breaking it down into 9 interconnected building blocks, from customer segment to value proposition, from revenue streams to cost structures. And my favorite, spy on the competitor. Go to the app stores, read their reviews, look at what users complain about. That's a gold mine of data, opportunity that you could essentially capitalize and do better. Skipping validation is like building a house, but without checking to make sure that the ground that you're building is solid. You don't want to pour money into development only to realize nobody wants what you built. Now, development strategy. Once your idea is validated, now you can talk about development strategy. We look at step 1. Choose your platform. Should you start with an iOS, Android, or even a web portal? Does your product involve devices? Maybe it's IoT. The key is to choose the one that best reaches your target user first, not necessarily all platforms at once. Step 2. We generally like to start with an MVP, or a minimal viable product. That means building only the essential features to test your idea in the real world. Don't burn cash building the dream version of your app right away. And step 3, wireframe before you code. Tools like Figma and Adobe XD, they let you design the user flow, test it with real people, and make changes cheaply. Now, both Figma and Adobe XD have AI created prompt capabilities now, allowing anyone to design a wireframe that essentially is their app idea. And I highly recommend signing up and having a go. It's not complicated. Trust me, it's a lot easier to fix a wireframe than a working application. Understanding your requirements. Now, here's where we get technical. Now, before you build, you need to define your requirements. Write it down. Maybe develop a user story. For example, as a user, I want to do X so that I can achieve Y. This will help define the number of user types the app requires. For example, Uber has a driver and passenger app. So 2 different users with 2 different user stories and 2 different apps. You look at stuff like functional requirements. These are things that the app must do. So sign up, booking, notifications. And then you look at the other side of things, or non-functional requirements. These are things like speed, security, even offline mode, scalability, building the server the application is running on. And don't forget the experience. How should the app feel? Is it smooth, fast, intuitive? Wireframes help bring that to life. Even simple sketches can help your team stay aligned. Now, the all-important question. Let's talk about money. Apps vary hugely in cost. A simple app could range between $25,000 to $50,000, where a medium app, $50,000 to $100,000. Something a bit more complex, though, that can range to $100,000 to $250,000 or even more. Why the range? Well, complexity drives costs. Features, integration, design, team size, all that adds up in the long run. Have an example. A simple app would be an appointment app. Let's have a look at a medium app. The complexity would be something like an e-commerce app, where a complex app, the perfect example would be Uber. It needs multiple apps, multiple users, different apps. So here's the important part. These numbers, they aren't roadblocks. They're investments. But the key is making sure that your app idea has a clear path to ROI so that the investment, it makes sense. Now, the cost, it's shaped by a few big factors. Now, the platform is one of them. Are you building for iOS, Android, or both? The user experience and the user interface. The more custom you go, the more time and more cost. The more user types, the more custom screens need to be designed, therefore, more costs. For example, in a commerce app, you will have a buyer, a seller, and maybe even a supplier. Then we'll look at the tech stack. Some technologies are faster and cheaper to build with than others. Is your app native build or a cross-platform build? For example, when it is a native build, you need to make a custom app for each mobile OS. A native build requires double the labor. And the team. Are you using freelancers, in-house developers, or an agency? All of that does change the time and the cost. And don't forget all the ongoing costs after development. Hosting, bug fixes, updates. Generally a good rule of thumb, 10 to 15% of your original development costs per year. That way, you can avoid any nasty surprises later on down the track. Now, everyone's talking about AI, but should you use it for your app? And the question is, it depends. Generative AI, it can power chatbots, it can create content and personalize experiences. Agentic AI can automate workflows, make smart recommendations, and even predict user needs. But here's the warning. Don't add AI just to say you have it. Ask yourself, does it solve a real user problem? Then if yes, it's worth exploring. If not, it could just be a distraction and essentially a waste of time and money. The right AI feature can make your app stand out, and the wrong one can definitely be a waste of time and budget. Now, launch and go to market. Once you've developed it, developed your project, that isn't the finish line. It's only half the journey. Launching and growing your app requires just as much planning. That means beta testing, fixing bugs, rolling out features, even in phases. It also means promoting your app through digital marketing, app store optimization, and even offline campaigns. But the real key is retention. Getting a user to experience getting the user and keeping a user is expensive. So keeping them is cheaper, getting them is expensive. So how do we keep them? We could use push notifications, loyalty programs, feedback loops to keep people coming back. Essentially, making sure that you keep your user is a lot cheaper in the long run than collecting new users. Now, let's go back and have a look at instant consults. Let's return what they did to win where others failed. First, they solved a clear pain point. Waiting rooms, appointment delays, busy parents. Second, they validated the idea before spending a cent on development. And third, they launched with an MVP. They listened to feedback and they kept improving. The results, they spoke for themselves. As Rom stated, 100,000 downloads, a 4.8 average star rating, and a recognition as Australia's digital healthcare specialist. That's the power of preparation, and that's what we're asking you to do. So let's recap. Before you build, clarify the problem. Define your audience, set success goals, validate your idea. During development, start with wireframes, choose the right tech stack, define user stories, and budget properly. And then for launch, plan your marketing, both online and offline, and focus on retention. If you follow these steps, you'll already be ahead of most founders because most, they skip straight to building and hope for the best. Thank you so much for joining us today. At App Gurus, we believe before you build a plan. We've guided startups and SMEs through this process and helped them turn ideas into successful products. If you'd like to dive deeper, we have a business playbook we can share. And of course, we'd love to discuss your idea in detail. I'd love to hear your questions and see how we can help you move forward from your idea to launch. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you all. I'm hopefully hear from you soon.